biblical spiritual gifts. And who doesn't like to have a gift, right? Everybody loves getting gifts.
I do.
Whether it's Christmas or your birthday. Our two boys, well, we have three boys now actually, but our two oldest, Asher and Ezra, we've with each one of them, we've kind of had to train them to understand. They've had their own birthday parties and they're used to getting these gifts, but with each of them, when they end up going to a friend's birthday party, they tend to think that birthday parties are when they get gifts, no matter if it's their birthday party or their friend's birthday party. And so just recently, Ezra went to his first birthday party, a friend of his in preschool, and I came to pick him up from the party, and he's crying. I'm like, why are you crying? And this is Ezra, and he's like, Kason, the friend he took all my gifts. And I'm like, well, these aren't your gifts. These are Kason's gifts that we got for him. And so we're still trying to figure out what birthday parties and gifts are. They're not all for you, no matter what. And so today, as we're talking about spiritual gifts, these are different than in when you get a gift. The gift at your party or for Christmas, who is it for? Us. It's for your enjoyment. It's for your pleasure. Unless you get something like underwear or socks, usually that's, you don't really take.
Socks are helpful.
Socks are helpful. Underwear is very helpful too. But unless you're wired a little bit differently, you probably don't go crazy when you unwrap that present. You're like, yes!
When I get Desi socks, that's what I say.
Good, okay.
I get really excited about that.
Yeah. As long as it's not fuzzy underwear, then we're cool. All right, so the difference between spiritual gifts and like a gift you get for Christmas or something is that spiritual gifts aren't necessarily for our pleasure and for our enjoyment, but they're for what? Anybody tell me? God. That's true. God, but also somebody else, which we're gonna go through when we unpack 1 Corinthians 12. In fact, somebody read for me 1 Corinthians 12, chapter 1. 1 Corinthians 12, verse 1. Jack.
With regard to spiritual gifts, brothers and sisters, I do not want you to be uninformed.
All right. So what's the Apostle Paul saying first off about spiritual gifts? What's he instructing them on? Anybody? Jake.
He wants them to listen.
He wants them to listen. He wants them to be what?
Taught.
What? Taught. He doesn't. He says, I don't want you to be misinformed. In other words, I don't want you to not grasp this or to misunderstand this, because that's how important this idea of spiritual gifts are. And so that's why it's important that we talk about it today in confirmation, is that the Apostle Paul thought it was important that the church of Corinth understood what spiritual gifts were and what they meant. And so today that applies to us just as well, that in we're not the church of Corinth, but we're the church of Colonial. And it's important that we understand what spiritual gifts are and how God has gifted us. But before we talk about what spiritual gifts are, I want to talk really briefly about what spiritual gifts are not. All right, so first off, we're going to talk about spiritual gifts are not, they're not a natural talent. You guys know what I mean when I say that?
Yeah.
Give me an example, Ribby.
Well,
Ribby, what are you talented at? Man, there's not a lot of excuses. Are you a good basketball player?
Shoe game.
Okay.
yeah, okay.
Okay. Basketball, Cole. What are you talented at?
Being awesome.
Being awesome.
That was natural.
Cameron, you're talented at shopping. All right. Annie, what are you talented at? Soccer. Very good. Okay, so you guys have